to the cryptozoology show. This is part four of this sort of thing with the weird magic items and things. I found a few rings that I never seen before in recent times that are so interesting. This is real stuff where it was actually found with bizarre writings on it that nobody can really decipher. This seems to be some kind of magical incantation, you might say. So this rings seemingly may actually have some bizarre sort of thing, like in the old Shaggy DA there. I can see it in my mind. In the ring, there's this ring in this Shaggy DA thing. This I can't think of the actor's name, but anyways, he was funny back in the day. And I told you my memory for people's names is terrible sometimes, but I can see the pictures of it and the things. And this guy, he finds in this museum place or something this wacky ring, and inside of it says. I can see it incorporated. How do you pronounce it? Incorporated transmuto or something, right? I can see the guy in the thing. There's a part where he twists it and stuff, but I can still see it in my mind. But anyways, it's something like that in incorporated transmuto. It kind of means like in Latin that somehow that you once you put this on, you can then transmute into a dog, right? So it's this really funny movie, The Shaggy DA or something, right? Like I seen it when I was younger and stuff like that, but but anyways, that kind of thing where these are real rings that are actually housed in museums or weird things where they got some really strange, bizarre sort of things, right? And then besides Joan of Arc, uh, the other most amazing, hottest chick to me in this universe is that besides Elizabeth Montgomery, that's number one, but she's an actress, that's a different thing. But for like some kind of goddess like to warrior sort of woman or whatever, any kind of thing like that, this Cersei is oh man, astonishing sort of funky strange sort of queen, right? Like Lee, right? So we'll talk about her after that. Absolutely fascinating, right? And that, and I'm going to show you something that no alien researcher, nobody in this world has ever proposed this before. They have proposed that possibly Zeus and Apollo and different ones could be all the same kind of guy, right? And I believe that. I've always believed this because I don't believe that people with such advanced culture are this bizarre and primitive that they're believing in gods and this kinds of things unless they're seeing something that's actually real. And in ancient times, these fallen angels, these different kinds of ones, right, that might have been floating around that were showing themselves, right? These ones, they were teaching humanity early sorts of things, right? And that, and so she's quite fascinating. I mean, there's this painting, an ancient one of her, and I'll be showing it after. That is so astounding that the person that painted it seemed to like as if Circe embodied herself into this artwork. I can't explain it, but there's something mystical about this one piece of artwork that I'll show you, right? But anyways, what's really interesting is we're all missing a massive clue that's right in front of our face, and nobody noticed this all this time. That 100%, probably in all likelihood, correlates that the Zeus guy, the Apollo guy, this and that. What I told you is the Tower of Babel, right? You have this Tower of Babel. He makes everybody speak different languages. So when they spread out after, he's still doing his thing, right? So he appears to them in different slight ways. And the name is just translated, right? You can actually find a story of Noah and several ones, right? Where their language, the name that they call him, if you translate it into that, means Noah. So they're talking about the same dude, and I think also that a lot of people are wrong about this Anunnaki thing in the sense that they were the first and all this sort of thing. This is not probably reality at all, in that sort of way that basically that the Bible, these ancient words were they're based on an original story, right? But whether the Anunnaki thing is talking about the same thing or not doesn't even necessarily mean that that's the oldest version of this. And it seems that people trying, like as if they're trying to say these things are older than the Bible. No, they're not, because that is the Bible. The whole stories are from an ancient the beginning, right? And these kinds of things of at least of this washing of the earth, if it happened before, it could have. Other cultures claim that it burned once by fire before, and floods, right? So I suspect, me personally, that this has probably happened several times. That once we get too way big, and that and all corrupting ourselves and all this sort of thing, like and you get these stories of Mahabharatu there, or the battles in the skies, right, and these kinds of things, right. It seems that there's like a cyclical thing where the earth can only withstand so much, and then they're going to do something about it, right? So we'll talk about that. I got some hilarious a few sentence stories, and a couple bizarre ones that are really strange, bizarre, naughty Sasquatch encounters. So I would try and word it in the as best as humanly possible, to sort of thing like that. But viewer discretion advised if it might upset you a couple of. But I can't do anything about it. That's the story, right? So, and I think they should be told things like this. They're entertaining no matter what, right? In a psychological way of if they're made up, like why would some females say, like, in other words, there's you know what I mean, it seems strange that people would do this, right? Like unless sometimes there could actually be some reality to it, right? And that sort of thing like that. Got a few more real lake monster films and that, but there's a clue that we've been really missing that nobody notices, and realized, I said, oh my goodness, man, like it's right in front of your face, and we didn't see this. The 1 billion% correlation that probably they really are the same guy. And this is what I'm saying, this, that when you speak to a native elder, right, in ancient times, right, these alien god guy, right, Yahweh, whatever version you want to say, Apollo, Zeus, all these kinds of things, right, whoever, when he represents himself to a culture that's just living off the land, they don't need to know all this wacky stuff, right? So they educate them in what's important around in their environment and these different things. So, like, I mean, you can't take, as a for instance, like let's say Cersei, right? She's known to zap you with her magic wand, right? And we'll be talking about that. But let's say Cersei zaps you to a Porky Pig, right? And this sort of thing like that. Apparently, she can actually reverse this, and that's sort of thing which is interesting. But the thing is that the it seems that these possibly Nephilim like things, where they're mixtures, these real gods and things, are all really the same sort of thing. It's just that each time you have where they have to represent themselves to the ability of the culture and the spot, right? You see what I mean? Like I mean, there's no use them explaining, like saying to the native chief guy, okay, sacrifice a pig, let's say, when in that area there is no pigs. They only have a reindeer, let's say, right? Well, then how is this guy going to accomplish this, right? So the thing is you got a set of rules always. The Yahweh guy says this, that, that. So in different cultures, depending on what was available to them, how advanced that they were at that moment as things, and how much these angel like guardians and these cherubs and all these kinds of things, fallen angels, all this would teach them, right? Some got more advanced because they're babysitting them right nearby, right? But maybe the others that lived off in more primitive things, right? They would do it a different way and come and visit them. He's the great wolf guy. He's this and that, right? The great dragon. You see what I mean? So always it's like a spaceship, like kind of thing where the person's trying to tell you something that they know to be real. And again, any person that claims that dragons didn't exist is complete ludicrous because you have tens of thousands of ancient records, not one single record you can find where the guy says that they don't exist. And only in our last little massive decades there that we claim these things. Before 1940, still, in any dictionaries and these kinds of things, encyclopedias you can find, dragons are rare, right? Like, so, complete forced by a groups out there that wanted this Darwinism to fit in so perfect for them that this would make it sound that maybe it's not going to work out here 100%, so we better just pretend that they didn't exist, right? Why would museums all over the world have still in their old records and their thing of what they owned that they had so many dragons? Why would shipping have listings of dragons that they're shipping across? Really, really, do you people all believe this just because some Smithsonian institution guy tells you this, right? And I love the some of the interesting things. I saw one recently there where it was really interesting. I'm not going to be talking too much about angels this time, but we will a little bit about this angel, female angel sort of things, cherub like stuff. But this guy tried to. He was a university group, and they tried to state that they analyzed that only a bird, because the wings are on the sides, that where they were putting it in all these ancient diagrams, not one single diagrams do you see where they're not like this right here in this picture. And these guys are silly human beings. These are beings that have some kind of glowing power, like a power stuff here, right? Like real wild stuff. And when they fly down, if they want to stop in a spot, just so that the atmosphere around them keeps them perfect in the area that they're going to do, or maybe if they're going to do a battle, you might have to zoom this that way. These wings actually just grow right out of their back. It's just part of their body, and these idiotic scientists can't seem to get this. I mean, it's right in front of you, dodo heads. I mean, there's over 10,000 witnesses. The same exact historic spot thousands of years ago, an angel appeared there right over the exact spot. So every person, all the Muslims knew it was an angel right away, including the family that I interviewed, right? The agencies, all of them said that this is what they presume it must be, as an angel, right? Because it's over the same spot. It matches the glowing description. You see it first have no wings, then all of a sudden the wings come out of its back, right? I mean, complete. So these silly scientists on this show actually sound foolish to me, and they didn't prove anything. So even the alien people there, they were talking about a sort of thing. They said that well, if it seems that angels couldn't have flying this way, they're complete foolish, right? This is how it's doing it. It's doing it right in front of you, right in front of our face, in front of 10,000 witnesses. There was an angel floating above the holy Mecca spot. I mean, come on, really? Like, how can you ignore this? And when I saw one time Giorgio done something on this, right? And I couldn't believe that not once either of these guys said, I wonder what it is. It must be an alien. Like, how could you deny that when you guys use the Bible all the time, constantly, to back up some of these alien theories, right? Well, it's right in front of you. That is an angel. They exist. There is no doubt about it. Something flew from a spaceship-like thing that was in the sky. In the film, you can actually see these bright red lights and a giant circumference flash around once in a while, way up in the sky. But they're hidden by, I guess, clouds and all that kind of thing, right? Or some kind of cloaking, who knows? But somehow the lights would appear, right? And you see it kind of come from the center of this thing. So I presume they got some kind of chute. The angel shoots down. This thing's going a zillion miles an hour and stops on a dime. No person, a robot, or these drones or any of this crap could do any of this stuff. It actually is lighting up like a whole huge area all around it with its own creating power source. It's not fake, folks. This is a real deal. That's an angel. Done. Right? The Bible tells you. So this is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they're only wrong about in the sense that they keep saying, you know what I mean, that they're not a god, they're a space alien. It's the same thing. The guy or these groups, or even if there's all kinds of different aliens that helped us, right? They still exist, and they is our interpretation. Of course, we're going to call them a god, but they do exist, and they really are the creators of us. So therefore, they are godlike in this sort of sense, right? The guide just gives you a set of instructions. Another civilization, he's going to give a different one because these things may not be available always, right? And that so there's tweaks on these things, right? So this is what I'm saying. But to ignore that, obviously there is life in the skies. That was one of them. That's a real intelligent living entity of some sort, which again matches all the descriptions of angels, right? Is floating over a spot that the Bible tells you that an angel floated over it, as well as other sorts of groups, right? So I mean, how any person can keep denying this and pretending like as if this has nothing to do with that, I find silly, right? So, I mean, this is the answer. And yes, they can fly. And normally, a lot of times, it seems they can metamorphose these things because after it shoots two power beams, you can actually see the light there. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see one of them, I think, right there. You can see these kind of funny little light there. But anyways, in the film, it shoots it clearly. There's two of them. And it seems that it's trying to point where probably maybe that's where they're supposed to build this temple, these things. So, I mean, but clearly that again, these a lot of guys when they use, like another one, the guy used this meme thing as an explanation for Sasquatch, which proved how idiotic that he actually is, right? And how some of these people get their degrees is mind-boggling. You have tens of thousands of times since the earliest Enkidu guy to today, identical information each time that the guy's between this and that height. He's full of fur. He stinks. You know what I mean? He goes, goony goo goo goo, and right? And all this stuff matches every time that he's came from a cave or found in some hollow or was running out, foraging up on the mountain or whatever it is, right? Always identical things. In a meme, it doesn't work that way. When you get in a room, you tell one person I saw a Sasquatch. It was 18 feet tall, and it made a big toot in the cave, and we almost died. Okay, so now he passes on that guy. That guy says, "Oh yeah, we saw the big Sasquatch. They saw it, but it was 14 foot tall, and it smelled of garlic." Right. So each one's going to add or miss some little thing to it, right? So eventually, by the time you get 20 people down, then yeah, now all of a sudden it's a Martian from outer space, right? But he completely proved how idiotic that his whole theory is because each time it doesn't do this. Every time it's identical information. So why they put this guy in the show, what his purpose was, is below zero because he below zero proves zero. He's because it can't be a meme. Because if it was, it would then each time the first big one's going to be 4 feet tall, the next one's going to be 25 feet tall. That had a cigar in its mouth and singing the Spangled Banner. You see what I mean? Right? Like so. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they get on these shows from the silly Joe Nichols log answers to these things. And these guys are getting paid all kinds of money when people don't really want to know the truth. Right? Like, I mean, I find it mind boggling how any people could argue with some of these things. That's real film. 10,000 people plus seen it and hundreds of films of it from different individuals. You can't deny it was there, right? It was alive. Something did that. And it's not a drone, right? So since it matches the description, you even see the wings come out. They all say that they glow. And as far as I know, when they represent themselves to humans, maybe it's possible they can all of a sudden turn into a hottie like Cersei here or whatever. Right? Sort of thing like, so I mean, there's a lot to it, but I mean, at the end of the day, to deny that everybody agrees that there's got to be these aliens, a lot of them that are into this, right? But they're misinterpreting this one thing like as if they're mad that, no, there's no such thing as a God, blah, 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 blah. Like the guy created us, right? Like, he tells you this, he leaves you a sense of instructions, right? All the different groups around the world all believed this until modern times when the Smithsonian, that's a government-run institution, kept really pushing the Darwinism crap and this, and then the people don't want to defend their beliefs, right? Because they're not strong enough to do so. I certainly am. I could debate day and night about this because I can show things that at least you could say, well, yeah, the person has a point, right? Like, I mean, because they can't prove these things. I can't 100% prove that Cersei existed or any of these, but I certainly suspect that she did, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, but anyways, we got a lot to cover on this one too there, and that sort of thing like that. But I mean, I find these things really interesting. Why the alien sorts of groups out there keep wanting to attack the God part aspect of it when clearly these aliens are monitoring us. So if you don't want to believe the guy's name is Yahweh, the big chief guy, or whatever, right? Like, or you just want to believe it's the little gray dudes that are running us or whatever. These, all these things, at the end of the day, they're still in charge of us. Obviously, they could destroy us if they wanted to in a second, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, since they created us and that, if the guy asks you to be thankful and just say yeah, thanks Lord for whatever, helping me out and things like that, and that, well, I don't see why people have such an issue with this. I mean, you should be thankful, whoever that they are, whether they're magic beings or there's some kind of robotic thing. It doesn't matter. They still did it, right? And they still are superior to us. And if you had any brains, you would do it for that reason too, right? Like, I mean, come on, I mean, seriously, right? Like, so there's a lot of strange things with this alien stuff where people seem to use this also as like a devilish like thing to attack the belief system of that, right? And yet they're all clearly the same thing. It's just simply in ancient times when this machine would float feeding the Israelites, it would rest at night and the day or whatever, right? Sort of thing. Like, it would it would move and they'd follow it, right? And then it would rest, right? And they tell you this constantly, and the way they describe it, the burning bush, all these things, and even real references of other things where they clearly do tell you that a flying chariot means a machine that they tried to make. You see what I mean? Like, so it proves that that terminology was being used for a crap like thing that you could fly, right? And that sort of thing like that. So we got a lot to cover, but some of these rings will really fascinate you that are very, very interesting, anyways. And certainly the mighty Circe there. Oh my goodness, man. Could you imagine having a time machine and getting to see some of this stuff? Like this Circe and this Joan of Arc and some of these other wild characters like the Oracle of Delphi. I love that chick, man. But apparently there was more than one. Like she was the main one, but apparently that there was these a few maybe others that had this ability that could also sit on it, right? And sort of thing like that, that maybe was used not as an important sorts of things or whatever. I'm not sure, but I saw this in several sources that even though she was the main one, there was apparently a few others, right, and that sort of thing like that. But a lot of interesting thing. What people think is this Greek mythology and all this, I'm telling you, these people were really intelligent. I don't believe so. They had to have been seeing some real sorts of things here. And it makes sense to me in earlier times that the gods, that any fallen angels, any kinds of things, the regular Yahweh guy himself, or any other aliens from some other planet that also could be involved, right? Any of these kinds of things, I could see that they may have done done it this kind of way, right? Where if you're educating and you built a spot where it's nice and comfortable for the god sort of being, right, or the angel or whatever it is, right, they then of course are watching the funny humans all around them. They start liking the odd one, right? Like I mean, sort of thing. And things happen, right? So they might teach them some little trick, thinking it's harmless, not foreseeing that in the future that maybe humans shouldn't be having this kind of abilities, right? Right? Because they can't handle it, like the Yahweh guy says, right? So there's a lot to it, but I mean, seriously, the correlation of the God and this alien stuff is exactly all the same. It really is. So I don't personally care what supernatural is compared to something made with technology. I don't really care about this because again, it's a mighty race that's decided to create and help us, or at least advance us somehow, right? So I don't have a problem with being thankful for that, right? So, anyways, we'll continue on here, but it'll be an interesting show. So, I wanted to talk about the mighty Circe here. I mean, wow, 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 wow. I've been like looking at ancient paintings through history and everything and admire some of the greatest works out there. I mean, some of these people are astonishing in ancient days, right? In this, but there is something about this particular painting that I really believe that Circe really kind of looked like that and had the embodiment of this painting. Like as if I can't explain this. It's like as if that she approved of this somehow, right? Like because there's something magical about this painting. It's so extraordinary to me that it's right up there with any kind of Da Vinci stuff or anything going in my mind. Like I enjoy it this much because there's something, and I know everybody's going to say, but that's not the reason. Circe is kind of like this, there's something about this painting that it's like as if you can feel a life force off of it. And the amazing sort of details in the back of the mirror and this. And I always wondered that if that guy that created Game of Thrones, the ones where his fans really pissed him off, and I love this guy for doing this. He told them to all go, you know where, right? And I love that. I like that kind of stuff. So, because I mean, that's not their business to be telling this guy what pizza he wants to have, right, or whatever, right? But the mighty guy that did the Game of Thrones, right? Uh, I wonder if he saw this because if you think about it, look at here. You got like the Lannisters, right? The Lion tribe there, right? Cersei, right? right? The throne, right? Like you're sitting on the throne, right? Now looking under here, what I find interesting too is that is seemingly uh, that this is some kind of like an angel under her feet or possibly like a cherub-like thing, but it seems to be more of a male's face slightly. It's hard to, I mean, you'd have to really blow it up, I guess, for me to be 100% sure, but for some reason it doesn't. And typically they would have. Uh, like if it was a cherub or one of those, right? It would be usually like a female or so. So it's just interesting, right? And that, but I mean, you wonder that if he happened to see this once, right? And then this maybe the whole novel at this part at the beginning might have influenced him and maybe he created just from right that like because of course everybody knows about like dragons and all like all that stuff is out there, right? Like so it wouldn't be like but the main kind of how it would start would be possibly this painting or something similar, right? But I suspect this one because this is one of the few where she's actually like with these extraordinary lines here, and I this is like a much earlier sort of one, right? So, anyways, I find this I'm not even sure who the artist was, but I totally love this painting to death, like 1,000,000%. And if Cersei was out there and I've seen her, I'd definitely be a fan. It's all good. I would hopefully she wouldn't turn me into. Apparently, she had this magic wand and she could zap you and turn you into like a pig or a wolf or weird things like that, right? And this sort of thing. And it was so well known that so many of them got turned into these things of her getting, I guess, peeved off at them for some reason, right? So they actually would come back and plead with her, I guess, after doing and telling her, how sorry they are, and I imagine they would be, right? And that sort of thing. If she felt like it and was in a good sort of forgiving mood, she could zap you back and make you normal again, right? so, so I suspect that this woman was really like some either a one of those Nephilim like sort of things, like where it's like a mixture of a god and a human like sort of thing, right? And that or whatever, or just totally really an alien goddess of some sort or whatever, right? That came here, right? But I mean, uh, I kind of believe that this woman existed, and I sort of I don't think, like I said, a lot of these Greek so-called mythologies are really mythology, right? And that sort of thing. They were based on some kind of alien entities from the sky. It all could all be the same. Like there could be female ones out there, but also like the main head guy, Yahweh, this sort of thing, right, is represented in different names and everything in different places, like Zeus and Apollo, right, and these kinds of things, right. So it's interesting, but this woman's really fascinating, and what I also just wanted to talk about the fact that. Wondering like where did she get this wand, right? Like and that sort of thing. Like, was it some kind of advanced technology that can make somebody change, like some kind of strange thing like that? I mean, this has been known for thousands of years, these stories of a wacky wand or a ring or this kinds of stuff that could do this sort of thing, change and transmute somebody into a werewolf or these different ones, right? But so I suspect that there had to be, at least in some of these cases, some basis of reality to it, that really a godlike entity, a alien from the sky, right? Well, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if she came flying down and said hello to me, I'd say yes, your goddessness, right? Like I'm not, because the main god is always the big boss, right? But I mean, if mighty entities like that coming down, right? They are your boss, right? I mean, they can do whatever they wanted to do, right? Like and that sort of thing. And plus, she seemed like, besides zapping the odd poor person into some kind of cow or whatever she wanted to, right? Well, besides that, if you weren't too rude or anything, and sort of nice to her, she seemed pretty decent, right? So I mean, I just it's because like I think that she's so beautiful that I believe that that this painting was based really probably on what she might have looked like. I have every time when I see this, it just totally blows my mind the skill of this person and the this aura that it gives that I've never almost no paintings on earth can you get this kind of a thing from it, right? And I love like here you can see the guard there, right? And because everything's in reverse, of course, right from the mirror and that. I mean, this is spectacular stuff here, right? And that and how she's like even head of the sort of you know her the angel like entity seemingly like I said of a guy is below her you see, because she's like the boss, right? The queen, right? So she's even got like angelic like helpers, right? And this sort of thing. So I just, I believe that there's some of these because the God guy says he says thou shalt be no other gods before me, but at the same token he also the sons of God in all this. As far as you know, there's a Mrs. God in that. It's just the way that a lot of men even like are like this, right? Like where the knights at a round table isn't too concerned about what Martha Stewart's doing, let's say, right? Or this sort of thing. Like they're all it's only a guy's world in their mind, right? So that kind of thing like that. So when they write this Bible and these different things, they have it in sort of a way of this sort of thing as more because in those earliest times it would be the man reading all this, right, and that sort of thing. So it was more tailored to the men because they were in power and that sort of thing in the earliest times, right? And that, but I mean, to say that these goddesses didn't exist or that, like, you're not supposed to pray to her, I would presume, as the head one, right? And that, but at the same token, uh, she still is like a mighty entity, goddess like sort of thing, and you would respect her, right? You see what I mean? Like, there's this fine line here, right? Because there's no use, why would anybody even want to hurt a woman like this? I mean, like, or whatever, right? She's astonishing. Everything about her has this presence of greatness, right? So that sort of thing like that. So even if she didn't have the wand, I couldn't care less. I would still like her the same, right? Or that kind of stuff. But I would love to know what it was. Like, was it some kind of ancient alien sort of thing? Like some kind of zapping, like Zeus wand and these other ones, Thor's hammer and all that, or whatever, right? But I find this chick astonishing, right? And she would have never had a problem with me, man. I would be the most loyal dude and just don't ask me to kill people or anything too wacky, right? Anything else, it'd be all good, baby. Right? You see what I mean? Like that kind of thing, right? Like, because I mean, she, very astonishing, whoever she was, right? There was this other goddess that there is no way, I'm telling you folks, it's impossible, impossible, impossible that a quarry from about near 800 miles away can carry 10 to 100,000 ton giant sort of how do you say that giant marble things, right? And drag it through hundreds of miles of dense forest And then all of a sudden you get to this mountain that you cannot climb up. No human can climb up it in a straight way unless you were some insane one of those guys that can do that mountain climbing and they got the little chisels and everything. Yeah, I suppose you could get up there eventually, right? But anyways, somehow these guys then would bring this to this and then put these 10,000 ton sort of crappier or 1,000 ton different ones and get it all the way up to the top of this mountain and then just lay it there. Then this crazy apparently beautiful queen of some sort that would come from a spaceship, she was a goddess, she'd come down and they said she shot like some kinds of beams of light, like fire, like stuff, and it made this beautiful pool for her, and these other things were to make her these like beautiful gardens and houses, weird stuff and everything with these giant slabs, right? And this place is still there. It's astonishing. It's in India. Very few people know about it. There's almost no any mention of it even on YouTube or stuff like that, right? Very few have ever heard of it, but it's astonishing, man. I mean, it's impossible that these people die. There's no way that some goddess or alien or a god, Yahweh guy, whatever the case, I suspect there's, like I said, way more than one of these, and I believe that the Circe really existed, and I think many of these did. It's just the interpretation of humans at that time saying, like there's one there where Zeus, what was it? No, one of the gods, right? The main one, he spit out his children. He swallowed them and somehow then spit them out. Right. Well, you could interpret it that way. I would interpret that these people see the God guy, right? Like the second they see a spaceship, they know the God dude's coming. Even if he comes out of a spaceship and he looks very different than the spaceship, they're still gonna. That's the start of it. He's there, right? So now, God, the spaceship opens up and he swallows them. And then all of a sudden he opens it up, and then they escape or shoot back out. Right? They would see that as this, like Zeus and that being all that, like with the swallowing and everything. They would see it that way. You see what I mean? Right? Right? So it's kind of like, but they still know. Like there's zillions, like I said, of these drawings, ancient cave paintings, and everything, clearly showing this like UFO things, right? And aliens coming down. They even there's one that's the most astonishing one. Two of them. There's one in France of a. I mean, how any person could say this is pareidolia or any of it. You're so full of beauty. You know what? The most ridiculous thing. You go in this cave. It shows a perfect regular flying saucer, 1,000,000% with a beam. It then shows this guy beamed down and he starts walking. He's got a spaceship helmet on that isn't none interpreted. It 100% is a spaceship helmet. He's got two antennas up on the top of it. He's got this laser gun in his hand and he's walking around stalking. And then it shows him leaving again, going up in the skies. I mean, that's one of them. There's another similar one. This archaeologist had to keep it hidden until he died, and they discovered it. The same thing. It's got these UFOs floating in the sky, clearly with windows and everything. Perfect. Like, this is well thought out, not imagination stuff. Like, all of them are... like clearly you can tell probably this person's really seeing this and trying to duplicate as best as they can on the wall, and it shows the beams down the same thing. These alien little gray like guys coming out and doing their thing, right? And all that stuff. I mean, there's some things out there that people keep denying that we truly are created and are being visited, and probably right this second being controlled from behind the scenes by the head boss, the Yahweh guy, with all kinds of other characters that may be mixed in with this from other galaxies to who knows what. Like I said, I really do not believe that. All I know is the Yahweh guy is telling you that, and telling us in this sort of thing that he's the boss of all the gods. That's what he's telling you. He's telling you you should listen to him, not to what Bozo the Clown is telling you, right? This is what he's the main one. But of course, angels to everybody else here seemingly sometimes may not agree with all these commandments, right? And there's ruffled feathers and things like that. But he's still really at the end is the boss guy. The other people could be into their own schemes of all kinds of stuff and are controlling us too, right? So I wouldn't doubt that there's these alien that is some hottie like this, right? I mean, if I'm going to be captured by a space alien, Cersei's the one that would be the best choice of all times, right? Right up there, unless there was an Elizabeth Montgomery version in a space ship. That's the number one. She'll always be my the top queen of the universe. Is what I believe was the most beautiful creature that's ever been born on the face of this earth. I saw her the first time as a little kid on Rawhide, and I was insanely in love. Then she came on Bewitched, and I was nuts. I tell my parents I wanted to marry her. I was in L.A. At the time and stuff like that, and was doing these young modeling sort of shit that my parents would get me to do, and that. And I met like Tina Louise and all kinds of different sorts of famous sort of ones, and I kept hoping to run across her, right? Because I mean, I would have killed to just sit like I did with Tina Louise. I sat on her lap. She found me really cute and stuff like that. And she gave me a kiss and things like that. So pretty nice, man, to get kissed by a famous Gilligan's Island lady there. So great stuff. But anyways, she was actually really nice in real life. I heard all kinds of wacky stuff on the show, gossip and all that, but in reality, she was very nice to me anyway. And she had a nice aura about her and that sort of thing, like that, right? And that. Speaking of that, but it was just weird that, like, I mean, I never got a chance to see that one, right? And I mean, I just found her the most extraordinary out of anyone I've ever seen, right? There's many others, right? Like I even love like Liza Minnelli as a president, or I think she's really cute. There's all kinds of different ones that I like that are different of each one, but just her. That's you know what I mean, the best of all. She's like the Mona Lisa of, that's sort of the actress world, right? But for a goddess, this be the one. Cersei, way to go, right? Like, so I don't know, even though she's a bit slightly temperamental there, seemingly, so I wouldn't want to get her upset, but she wouldn't have to worry. I would never try and steal her water or harm her of any sort, and just try and be nice to her. But I love whoever did this art piece. Is just extraordinary. I'm sure it had to be one of the better ones. I just don't know it's who this one. I didn't see the artist's name. And that, but the first time I saw this, I was totally mesmerized by this painting. I find everything about it extraordinary. It just something about it, and I bet you she approved of it if she said, which I'm pretty sure she did. Like I said, I just think that these people represent themselves as some strange thing, or that there was this Nephilim, right, and these gods and that, and maybe the women goddesses in the Bible just aren't mentioned as much because, for whatever reason, right? These things could have all be, right? Or that because they're not, even though they have supernatural powers too, let's say, whatever that means, right? But the God guy there they're kind of not really with him. They're under him where he could deal with them if he wanted to directly, right? And defeat them, sort of thing, because that's what he's telling you. He's the chief of all of them, right? But the same thing is that he may not like what they're doing. He's not babysitting them and not like as long as they don't interfere with us too much in what he wants, right? I suppose that at different times they came down and done these things, right? And have appeared and helped humanity of some sort or strange sorts of things, right? But anyways, I'm pretty sure that she actually existed. I'm wouldn't be surprised that all of these ones existed. I find it really hard to believe that a highly educated cultures are going to spend gazillions of dollars at making giant temples to worship somebody that isn't there. Like, I mean, there had to be a basis of people actually in earliest times to cement such a belief, a physical things that they were seeing, or at least some, yeah, mighty ray shooting down a beam that makes it look like there's that. Whatever, right? Like any kind of technology, like it had to be somebody of high sorts of things, right? And in earliest times, in order that all the peons keep in line, you would have a presence more. And of course, they can't be a threat to you of any sort. It's all primitive in small numbers, right? And they would just babysit you, right? And that sort of thing like that. But then once it's advanced to a certain point, then they decided, well, no, from now on, we're just going to look behind the scenes. And if we need to do something or change, we'll only appear to that person or whatever, right? That kind of thing, right? So I think that these, what everybody thinks are myths, all of them are fully feasible, that some mighty other, this particular one entity, goddess here, as came down from wherever the skies of some planet, right? And actually had high technology or whatever magic is and that, and really, would do these things. Like there's these ones, right? I wouldn't even doubt if crazy Medusa existed. I mean, there was early experiments. I wonder, I know I saw in early manuscripts, I saw a couple of really bizarre things where these guys had mentioned that they had tried mixing like a horse with some kind of animal, and I don't remember what it was. And I thought this was really weird. And so then I wondered, okay, even though I've only seen, I saw other reference that was kind of somewhat that you might interpret that way, but it's iffy. So let's say two examples might possibly, out of the gazillions of things I read, where I saw that it mentioned that seemingly that the odd time humans were making experiments like this, right? So this Griffin thing or some of these other wacko things could have been some kind of, you know, human, or that the alien actually did this just to make an experiment, right? Or God, let's say, like after he's made all the basics and he knows that they could change in and out, like to go more primitive for advanced to fit the environment and all that sort of thing. He's already done all that, but maybe just out of curiosity, they get a wonderment. I wonder what a dragon and a lion would look like together, or something like some kind of wacky thing. I could see that, and then just put in an experiment out there. You chuck out a few, see what they do to humans, whatever, right? All that kind of thing. And then if it's not working out, then you just get rid of them, right? And that, like, I mean, there's who was it? Was it Plato or Socrates? Anyways, one of those guys, they said that they actually saw and watched Griffiths nesting. Now, come on, really? Like, why would such great scholars, which one, I can't remember for sure, right? The second, but why would such great scholars say this? Why? Why would you respect and believe everything else that they said? I know the same guy. I believe he described the two kinds of giant squid, right? Architeuthis ducks, and the other one is like a cuttlefish. It's more colder waters usually. They claim, right? And that, but and a colossus squid, and they get a little bit bigger, supposedly, right? But I mean, all of these things were described ages, massive ages ago, that all these guys are now dubious of, right? Because they're just lower in numbers, these things, the pollutants of the oceans and everything, and all kinds of weird stuff, right? But in the earliest times, when man's first approaching out in the seas, right? Oh, this life was at its maximum. When early explorers in Newfoundland would come, they could actually walk on cod. Could you imagine? The guy could get off the giant boat here, the ship, they couldn't move their ship anymore towards the shore, and the person could actually stand on the groups of cod on their backs and not fall into the water. This is how many was there. And they recorded this in multi times in different mentions, including I think like John Cabot and different ones like that, right? So I mean, all these things. Could you imagine of monsters in those days? Like, let's say he's a big ape Leroy and he's 400 pound monster. Well, he would have been like 800 pound monster then, because there's way more even to get with less exertion, right? And that sort of thing. So there was all these things that they tell you, giant fish monsters, some of these lake monsters, all these kinds of things. Really, every single time ends up having a grain to full near truth to it with very little exaggeration, right? So I just don't believe that an advanced culture like that is going to build giant temples and all this, and you're trying to say that they're primitive, yet at the same time, they're the first people to make laws and all kinds of, have court systems and all these kinds of things, right? Well, at least no one, like, I mean, there's a few other credited ones, even early in other, like Sumeria and these, like, there's different places I've heard these that also early sort of ideas like this, right? So and that sort of thing. But in general, they're one of the earlier ones for sure, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, but I just doubt that these guys just would spend all this time doing that unless there's basis to things. And the same with Grippus or dragons or these other things. I mean, they all for sure have some kind of basis of reality to them at one point, right? So whatever if they were a space alien, this I don't know. The daughters of God maybe exist and you don't know that. They're just not mentioned. Who knows, right? Like, I mean, there could be all kinds of wacky stuff like that, right? You know what I mean? Or that, or even like a couple that had a Nephilim child. I mean, I doubt they mentioned them all. Maybe some of them were these, like maybe Circe here or something, right? Where she ends up not being a giant or any freakish or anything. She ends up being a real 10 out of 10 hottie, right? Sort of thing. Well, then she's like she just got lucky where none of that bad stuff went into her, and but yet she still has like immortal like sort of things about her, right? But also god like powers, right? And that sort of thing like that, so I mean, who knows, right? But anyways, for sure, probably she really did exist. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, there's every time people doubt these things, there's always some kind of grain of truth. And for sure, some aliens are, we see these spaceships, somebody's flying them. I could clearly see thousands of years ago somebody calling all these things like God, right? As long as they're coming from the sky, they look more macho than us, right? And more tough. You're going to say yes, sir, or ma'am, right? And that's it. So, I mean, they are a god in that way, right? So, I mean, I can't get rid of this thing no matter what. There's some annoying bass thing that keeps appearing on the screen. But anyways, so we'll continue on here about some more of them there. But I just find that really, there's something again about this painting that is like mystical stuff here, and I wouldn't doubt it has some kind of influence on that writer of the Game of Thrones idea, because I mean, really, if you analyze that, you got the throne here. You Cersei, right? She's the queen. You got the thing. You got the two mighty lions here protecting you. Don't you love those lions? They're fantastic. I mean, the whole thing. Whoever did this was a true master. I mean, just I love this. This should be right up in the top, like 100 paintings ever done by anybody. I can't think of one that's thrilled me more in a lot of ways. Just by I love the I know this has been done before. I mean, some of the famous artists had always done that. Sort of thing, and even the artist that puts on here and stuff like that does weird things like there. So this is all. Other ones have done these, and I don't know how old this one is specifically, right? But the thing is that it's not common, and this one did an extraordinary job. I mean, it does really look like you're staring at a mirror I mean, and her skin tone and her amazing hair and face and the rest. We won't get into that, but anyway, okay, so we'll move on to the next goddess. Next, about this, these ones really fascinate me, and this piece of artwork is extraordinary. So I've decided, because I mean, even though I love the goddesses and Elizabeth and all them, I mean, for me, being a fish nut 24/7, right? And that sort of thing like this, the Talcum hotties here are the ones to go with, right? And to have the best sort of girlfriend wife like sort of scenario there. So out of these three here, I'm having a real tough decision with the cutie pie in the center and this one down here because her face is so unusual, right? So, but but anyway, I'll take either one of them, possibly that one too, but I can't see her face well enough, right? And that's or I could convert to some bizarre fish religion where where you're allowed three wives. No, and that'd be rough. But it's hard enough to handle one sort of girlfriend or wife. So certainly three would I'd be insane. So I couldn't handle that. So I'd have to just stay faithful with one. So here, so I think the one that appeals to me most is the central one. So I just like her eyes and the way she's staring at the other one and that. But I like the other one too down here. She's cute too. But anyway, the thing is that this was said and mentioned by multi different cultures and things that this race existed. And I told you I met this guy that was from around Jamaica someplace, one of those the Bahamas or yeah, it's something like that. It's not Jamaica, like Bahamas or it's some little one of these islands around there, right? And he told me that he saw this, and this guy's a coach now, a famous coach over in the States now, I believe. I saw him. I'm so proud of him. He did an amazing job. He was a real good friend of mine and that sort of thing like that. And he told me this really crazy story that because I used to drive him, help him to get to some other job and things like that. And this guy would, and he was like already a superstar in football and stuff, right? And the ladies would fly in this guy like a fly on you know what, right? I mean, when the guy would smile, the whole room lights up, right? So he's got a lot of charisma and that. So that's why he became a coach in a famous place in the States, right? Because he's kind of like that, like, and he was a really good driven guy, right? But this is, and he's Christian. So the thing to me is I know he's not lying. So this guy told me that he was on the island and there was this guy there and they called him the fish god guy, right? And this guy, and he said that there's other ones and they're like a race of some sort. But he saw this one guy and this guy would go out. So he'd walk as a regular human, right? And he'd walk and you'd see him start to go into the water, and all of a sudden his skin would change color and these scale like things would come on him. And this guy could sit down there, he said, for hours and just sit there and he'd catch fish. And chew on them, and he'd sometimes stick his head up and be chewing on one, right? And he watched this guy, and then he said that when the guy came out, right, and he started coming out of the water, all of a sudden the scales started falling off of him and everything, and he turned right back to a normal human. And these people around there really believe that there's still some of them on this island, right? Or whatever, but I don't remember if it's exactly like the Bahamas or it's some island around there, and he's not a Jamaican guy, but something like that. He looks kind of Jamaican, right? But he doesn't talk with the Jamaican accent. It's different, right? So I'd have to contact him somehow and find out exactly which one it was. But I can't see a guy like that making this up, right? And there's these legends of this, right? And these was a group of them right here that did the exact same thing as what he's saying. And I know this guy, he's into football. He doesn't know about ancient history like me or crazy stuff, right? So, you see what I mean? Like, so there's no way he must have really seen some weird thing there. Like it could be I mean, wacky tribes, mate. There's some in Papua New Guinea that are the weirdest stuff you've ever seen. There's one that paint themselves like skeletons. So they're like fully a skeleton. And then there's these other wacky ones. They're midget guys. So they created these wacky, they almost look like little alien gray guys. And they dress like this 24 hours a day, sort of thing. And they practice all these weird moves to scare people. And they started this to scare off enemies, right? And that sort of thing like that. So the wackiest stuff you've ever seen, right? And I showed you in the other shows there, sort of thing like that. Speaking of that, that's hilarious. I don't know, did I already mention this in the other part? I can't remember, but just in case, one of my shows, 2 days, it said 37 views. So I said, okay, well, whatever, right? And then now it's back to 12. Right. But and some of the other ones was way up, one went down. So I'm like, how is this humanly possible? So even new videos, no matter which ones I'm putting, these bizarre, and one of them will never move, right? And it's not, I mean, they're all part of the same video, right? So why, like, I mean, a person isn't gonna go from one to the three. You see what I mean? Like, there's something, and I don't feel like getting people to do that again because some of them aren't into mysteries at all, and they don't care about these things, right? And that, but I just find them interesting, or millions of others do around the world, right? And I love ancient history, right? And the artworks of these people, I like showing stuff like this too. And the artwork that is put on here or different ones, like any kind of thing. Like I like these guys, especially ancient artists. To me, were way better. This is a world class, spectacular piece right in front of me. It's so mesmerizing. The colors, the lights. These beautiful talcames here, they're perfect, and everything about it is just fantastic stuff. And these wacky characters here, I presume those are male talcames, maybe. I don't know, right? Or who's this macho here? You can see it looks like a Hercules kind of guy, right? And that's so. But anyways, all I care about is these three here, right? That sort of thing. But no matter what, it's a world class painting here, like a world class stuff here, right? Like a lot of people today, really, it's not the same. There's something about these older styles that is very mystical to me, right? I love them, right? And that sort of thing. But anyways, like even a guy like him in modern times is corroborating that such a thing may exist, right? And you got to wonder also, like the regular mermaid versions. I mean, you got Captain Cook, you got Christopher Columbus. I mean, the list goes on and on. My hero Marco Polo, who friggin' saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm not going to call this guy a liar. All of his stuff was accurate. And the guy tells you that clearly he was in the province of Karajan, right? And clearly that this monster comes out and it causes such terror that people freeze. They know, people can't believe what they're seeing. And the guy's got eyes the size of penny loaves, which is pretty big. I would presume like probably like a dinner plate like sort of thing, right? So I mean that's extraordinarily monstrous, right? Sounding right. And he stands on two legs. He's got two shorter up ones, right? And he bites like it can swallow like pretty well like a horse in a second. So exactly what a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? And this was a last little group of them. Like I showed you in a previous map on one of my other shows, clearly you can see a Tyrannosaurus-like creature or some kind of a raptor of some sort, right? Whichever one, right? And then clearly in the same, this is from the 15th century, okay? Dinosaurs weren't even known yet. And clearly it shows another one that would match like a Mokila Mbembe sort of one, where it's a sauropod dinosaur with a very long neck. It's eating out of some kind of tree that would be similar, like a liana tree, except this is in South America, so I don't know which version that would be, if they have liana trees there too. This I don't know. But exactly in the terrain that it would be, it shows one of them up in the top eating the stuff, right? And the other one down at the bottom with their neck curled around, seemingly like munching on the fallen ones or something. Like, it's hard to tell exactly what that one's doing, but something like that, right? And I mean, so these people got even giants in it, and different things telling you in different areas where not to go and all this sort of thing. And it was extremely, actually, it's an accurate map in the general sense and all that. So again, could it be that they conveniently can not know what a dinosaur yet is for hundreds of years, conveniently perfectly draw a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Brontosaurus monster that is eating a bush-like tree, exactly like a liana tree that grows above the sort of high thing where the monster has to have a long neck. It looks identical, the same long tail, the same the things, like, I mean, 1 billion%. And the Tyrannosaurus Rex, he's walking on two legs. He's clearly the size of one of these brontosauruses. He's a hunter. And so, I mean, I don't see how people dispute this, or these Percy Reese maps. No matter what any idiot in the universe wants to claim, you cannot say that the place was frozen there 1 million years ago. You're wrong. The map clearly shows it was open thousands of years ago. This map was not made 1 billion years ago. You know that. Every person on this planet knows that. I mean, it couldn't have been even made 100,000 years ago from the first person, right? Or if they claim we're really that old or whatever, right? As far as I know, the Bible version is the right one, and maybe it'd be 7,000 years, depending on how you want to look at it, or maybe even possibly something's misinterpreted there, and the Bible's actually about 10,000 years old, but was never really compiled properly until about the 15th century. But all these different things were always there, right? Whatever the case, these kinds of things, that's the sort of basis of things, right? Like all these things were around, and of course translated in other sorts of things that one ancient group is telling you that no, they were first, the Sumerians or this or that. That's all very debatable, this stuff, because you have this same thing no matter where an Anunnaki like guy is there giving advice to the peons and this kind of thing, right? Like, so there's always like a god guy no matter what the story. So it's only your belief that because you're dating something that you can't really date or prove, that you're suspecting they're older than another one when maybe this isn't the case, right? So these things are hard to know, any of that sort of thing like that. I mean, there's a lot of debate about this, right? And that sort of thing. But still, I wouldn't be surprised at all that this race existed, right? And same with mermaids, even though my head finds this so crazy to believe. I mean, the amount of famous explorers, to all scientists, to different people in old times that described them, spoke about them, everything. There seem to be numerous kinds of these, like beautiful maiden-like ones, to these creature black lagoon kind, these Japanese monster ones that are sort of wild, and all kinds of different versions that are out there, right? But the typical mermaid or siren, in most cases, and then there's mermen, but they don't mention them as much, but there's a fair amount of sightings all mixed in all together, sort of thing, right? And that, but I mean, you have these variants, and I mean, clearly some of them probably was a different kind because some mentioned that they were ugly or whatever, whilst with others would say they're beautiful and these kinds of things, right? So, but the amount of different famous people that when you look at the information that they gave you, it's all been proven, most of it correct. So the only thing that you have a problem with is that there was a mermaid or that a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex monster lived in the province of Karajan and these kinds of things because people want to believe the Smithsonian way, right? That's the only thing you can like that they disagree with. But all the other ones they fully accept it as fact, right? So again, I don't believe people that when the guy tells you a thousand stories in a row, right, and 998 of them are proven 100% correct, I don't believe the other two are put in there just for something to do. You see what I mean? Like, it's only because you've been trained that a dragon could have existed and all this foolishness stuff. The human mind just simply is trained very quickly by governments and puppeteering to sway people to view in a certain way, right? And this has been done since time began, right? I mean, if everybody's scared of the king and the nation, right, and the queen, let's say the queen has one of these magic mirrors and she can turn these poor Talcames into a moose, right? Well, even they're going to fear her, right? And that sort of thing. Like, yeah, like so people were because they interacted more, right? It was different, right? It's like, but in today's time, you have all this mention of that people won't believe anything more that they're seeing whatsoever because now they can create these AI videos that are. You'd swear you're looking at Donald Trump and he's talking to you, but really it isn't him, right? And this kind of thing. So this is going to get more and more dangerous where they can take any celebrity and do this and that to them and all kinds of wacky stuff. So some of this is and that's why it's scary to me too because they say that's one of the predictions in there. And like I said, this book is so accurate. So whether the God guy's a space alien, he's really such thing as a spirit guy, whatever that is, and all that stuff, the no matter what, the book was compiled off of different chapters written and all considered holy since the most ancient of times, right? So even if some books are missing in that, any of these books should be accepted as a part all full factual thing like certain groups do, right? They use all the full Bible. But some of these groups cut it down in the 15th century, I guess for condensity and some of the things they didn't like mentioning of like reincarnation, that they poo-pooed on that and different some things, right, that are fully accurate, but they just didn't, they wanted to omit it, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, like, I mean, these things happen all the time. That doesn't mean that all these things weren't even older. It's just like, so you can't say, they always try and do this. They say the Bible was based on the Dead Sea Scroll or this, that. That's not really how it's working here. The real words were at the beginningest of time, right? You see what I mean? Like, so somebody at the most beginningest of time wrote already these things and as they came along because you can't each chapter was told to make a new one and then it was added and that's why all these groups all follow the same kinds of scriptures and that because all these books were each one as they were written were compiled together then finally in the 15th century they nitpicked a bit and condensed it into one kind of book that everybody could just walk around with sort of idea, right? But the thing is that all those other books should be still considered as wholly inaccurate. And all I'm saying is that this Bible, as far as that, you can't prove the God guy standing there, but the event really did occur. Something really did do these things and created a water through a blasting through a mountain like thing out in the desert. How could that be, right? Unless he had some kind of space like technology, right, or supernatural powers, right, whatever that is, right. So the thing is that since it tells you all these sorts of things, right, you know, it's there has to be every time they tell you. So whether it's our interpretation is a bit off of what they're really telling you, it doesn't matter. They all have some kind of basis here where there is some kind of truth to them. And so, I mean, some of these things really have to exist, right? Whether it sounds crazy to us or not. And I always think about him with his story. And when I read the Stalkamaze, there's ones from my place, like Ireland, also the same thing, where they can, if you catch them, and you put them up on the shore, their furry coat will drop off and they become a hottie after. Right? And then they would marry the local villager guys. And this apparently happened for mass ages where there's this interbreeding of like a mermaid like sort of thing and like regular villagers, right? And that I'm not sure if like those stories I ever read were always of females, but I presume that there was probably males too, right? But it just the examples I saw was more females, right? But anyways, I wouldn't be surprised if any of these things actually existed. It could be that some wacky tribe. I mean, there's tribes out there that can do craziest stuff. I should do a show on that one time. There is something that I am telling you is some kind of supernatural like power that is totally not explainable. I am so blown away by this because I'm the most skeptic of a lot. Like, I mean, I really look at stuff. And there's this wacky tribe that makes this umbrella like thing. So it's got like just an umbrella stand, right? Like a big beach umbrella. It looks very similar to that. And they build rings of this hay like stuff and a circle. And you clearly watch them all making it. There is no person in there. There's nothing. It's all out in a sandy spot, and there's a zillion people all standing around them. Now, when it's made, the guy goes unga bunga bunga. All of a sudden, this thing starts to dance by itself. It'll spin around a zillion miles an hour. A person couldn't even do that, even if they had a midget guy in there. He could not spin the speed. He could not spin his body around the speed that is doing. I mean, it's insane, way more than a human could even revolve, even if they could hide a midget in there, right? And then you see this thing, it'll dance and spins around. It does the most, but it's defying every kind of crazy thing you could possibly imagine. There's also another wacky tribe where there's these females and that can actually walk up the side of a wall a little bit. So somehow they can actually walk like backwards and get their legs up in the air and actually walk and not fall down. And there's these other wacky ones where they're like Spider-Man in women, where they actually seemingly can walk up like even walls with nothing. There's nothing to grasp there, with some kind of weird stickiness in their hands or something that's causing this, that they can maneuver like a spider could, right? And climb right straight up into things that a burglar wish they could do, right? So there is strange powers out there. There's a guy that they study now, and he makes big bucks because of that. He can actually stick his hand in a boiling cauldron pot that would burn any person's hand right off. And this guy sticks it in there, waves it around, and he pulls it out, and not even a blemish, nothing, below zero. And they can't believe it, so they want to see how this is, and that to see if possibly they could create this to help humans, you know what I mean, protect ourselves from burns better and stuff, right? So really fascinating. There's a lot of strange stuff, and that's again what I believe, why that I believe this is true, that this Mighty Yahweh guy had a Jesus guy, but he did it in a more pure sort of way instead of like how the other ones took advantage of mortal, sort of not too educated young ladies in those eras, right? And that so. And creating these sort of things, he probably refined to make sure Jesus was like all going to be perfect or whatever, right? Like that kind of thing, right? Sort of thing. So it was just done in a more proper fashion for where it's not tainted, right? Whilst with that was that could have produced all kinds of strange offspring because the word Nephilim doesn't only mean giant. It does for sure in certain examples, 100%, that they are correlating that to a gigantic person of stature. However, there's all kinds of other ones. It meant like the son of a god, a person of great importance, right? A leader, like sort of thing. And that, so seemingly, I mean, many of them might have turned out not as freakish looking, like Hercules, as for instance, or that kind of stuff like that, but still had like amazing powers, right? And that, but just not like because they were, I guess, educated and raised right, and all the weird stuff that would be with it. These particular children were a better example of a Nephilim, right? And also because they're part God, they'd make a great leader. These guys, so the same word was used with things, but different groups will try and say, no, it didn't mean a giant, it meant this, and they're all just trying to make a TV show is what they're doing, because if they really analyzed it, again, you can see multi meanings of the same word mentioned multi times by different multi groups, therefore proving that each one is correct, like they're all correct. It's just like we can say the word the F, F you, right? Like, I mean, as you know, it can be a noun, a pronoun, and an adjective, like that. The list goes on, right? So, I mean, you can, and it can mean multi sorts of things, right? Like, yo yo baby, what you doing tonight? It could be that. It can mean all kinds of, hey, you, why don't you go? You see what I mean? Like so. I mean, this has always been done where certain words can be used in multi sorts of meanings, right? So you have to take it in the context that it was, and when. Sometimes when the guy says he was an Nephilim and he was a big monster and he lived in a cave, well, then that is a giant. That's truly what they're talking about, right? But if they say that he was a Nephilim, but he was I don't know, the ruler of some little kingdom or something, it's unless they showed his stature like. That he was a giant, like in the pictures of a king sitting on the throne, but they don't in a lot of them. So, it seemingly the guy was more just like a part God in the sense that he was born of, you know what I mean, of one of these sons of God, right? So, I mean, uh, again, we're taught to believe these things are mythology, but I really doubt this. Like there seemingly is a basis to these things, and there's gazillions of strange tribes that have bizarre powers. Like I said, this tribe, I guarantee you, any skeptic, Joe Nichols, doesn't matter to me, any person, you cannot duplicate what these tribe can do with with an umbrella broom. I mean, there's no way that they could produce like a trickery like sort of effect. So, however this occurs, they claim that it's they call this magic indentation or whatever, and that it rises the spirit that then inhabits the spinning tree monster and will do a dance and stuff, and it's like a ritual. And you clearly see this come alive, this thing. It terrifies you. It even goes up to different people and will stop there and like staring at you. I mean, This is like the most creepiest stuff I have ever seen in my life. And it's totally real. I saw it mentioned even ages and ages ago in an early Robert Ripley thing. And he mentioned about this tribe had this supernatural dancing sort of umbrella like thing, right? And there was a few other mentions that other people had seen this, but I never saw like a video of it. And then when I finally seen one, I mean, this is not trickery. It's not a CGI video. It's a guy just filming there with regular sort of stuff here, and it's all clearly going on, and never stopped or blurred or nothing. Is 100% is real deal, and it is mystifying. I mean, I really, you'd swear that maybe they're telling the truth, that somehow they can raise a spirit and the spirit goes in it and makes it jump around, right? Like, I mean, it could be, right? I mean, gazillions of people have seen ghosts. I heard one chasing me seemingly almost every night going down there, like, and quite often it sounded like a group of them and that sort of thing like that, coming running up these stairs, terrifying a poor kid, right? And that sort of thing like that. And I was with this group of people at this haunted gazebo, and we all seen this lady skipping that was really a young girl that should not be dressed like that. It was my daughter. She would have not been. She would have been in trouble. Right? Anyways, she had like a micro skirt on, mini skirt with these skanky pippy like long stockings and high heels with clicking and that, and she looked really young, but like a tall girl, and with these pigtaily like sort of hair, and it seemed like her top was almost like as if it was almost transparent, see through. It was extremely strange. Anyways, we're all watching her, and three of the buddies that was with me, they were brothers, and one of them says, "Well, what on earth is that girl doing? If that was my daughter, I'd tan her ass." Like, so then I started laughing. I was almost thinking the same thing. Like, I mean, how could you have your daughter running out in those eras, especially at that time of night, dressed like that? Like, I mean, there was creepy old cab driver maybe, or some drunk or old pervert or something. Like, I mean, I would freak if my daughter was out running around like that, right? Like, I mean, so anyways, this girl was skipping, and we saw her, like, because there was these little group of trees, but they're far spread in between. So when you'd go through the tree, you'd have to appear a big space before you're going to even be able to hide in the next one, right? And you can clearly see far off behind her everything. She seemingly vanished behind this tree. So we kept waiting for her to come on the other side. She never came. We all started saying, "What?" Like this, and said, why is this girl out there? Is she in trouble or something, right?" Like, so we just all started heading down to it, and we looked everywhere. There's no possible way she could have crossed the street. She didn't go anywhere these ways that way. This girl seemingly vanished, but what we didn't know at the time that this place was supposedly haunted. And then I found out research after that a bunch of people were buried there, and that this is one of the ones that they would see around this gazebo, that there's this girl and she skips and stuff. And apparently like dressed like, oh, that kind of way, like slightly, right? The stories are all slightly different, but I mean, it's that kind of idea. So maybe the ghost dresses a different way each time. Who knows, right? But anyways, it's probably the same girl that others have played that they've seen. And these poor people went at this place in more recent years. They went to sit on the grass, and the freaking the two skulls popped up out of the ground. I was sitting around there then, right? I didn't know this, right? So I mean, I'll never forget that, right? So if you're in Ottawa, if you're into creepy haunted places, I guarantee you that place is haunted, like this gazebo, right? It's a strange place, and it's got a creepiness about it, right? And that sort of thing like that. But I did see that I believe that we probably saw ghosts, and I was in this apartment that visiting my buddy that was in this place. And apparently somebody got murdered there just before he moved in, and this bizarre thing that looked like a Grim Reaper each night that people would visit there, and sometimes over 10 people at once would all see this, like at the same time, man. And this thing looked like as if it's not a shadow, like it actually looked like it had thickness. You know what I mean? The thing, it's not like a black shadow of a creepy hooded figure, right? It's actually looked like it was sitting there. And but it had its knees down, and like as if, I don't know how you explain that. How do you say that word? Like where you're standing on your feet, but you're crouched way down, like his back was up against the door, like as if he's almost sitting, but still really on his legs, right? And this thing would sit there for a minute, 5 minutes in this kind of range. And people, sometimes if somebody was insane enough to get a bit nearer it, then it would just vanish, right? And we tested everything going by the windows to see at night or different times, is there some shadow that's causing some bizarre effect. And I mean, this place gave me the creeps, right? So, but it didn't kill us the first time, and it never bothered anybody. But I think that maybe that was some kind of leftover angry spirit of some sort or something. But it really looked like a Grim Reaper. I mean, it had a black, it was all coal black. It had like all in black, right? But like a robe like thing, and almost like as if the legs were underneath it. If you see what I'm saying, right? But I never. I would have freaked out if that thing had started to turn and we saw its eyes. I would have been terrified for life. I would have, the worst experience to me on earth would be something like that. That's the major thing that I thanked the few times that I ran across this, because this thing was seen by him pretty well every day for several months, and then he got freaked out and he couldn't handle it anymore and moved out, right? But he had quite a few parties there, and groups of us all would see this thing. It would just appear out of nowhere. And just before he moved in, there was a murder there. So I really believe that that was some kind of bad spirit like thing that was left there, right? That decided that luckily none of us were the person that caused it grief, right? So it decided not to do us in, right? Or maybe found us amusing. Who knows, right? Like that kind of idea, right? But anyways, I know that there was some kind of thing there that it can't be a shadow, right? And it was thick, like it was really the width of a regular, what a human would be, right? Like in the thickness up against the door. So you know it can't be like a shadow, but I still couldn't believe what we were seeing, right? So I do this. I'm more like this. I always want to test to make sure, right? And that I knew this lady, she had a haunted toilet in Montreal, and she had so many buddies because of it that half of the women would run away in terror from her, and the other half just loved this and didn't mind getting scared. And they would bring their buddies and everybody. I went there. There was one time about 20, 30 people. Another time it was these monstrous weird apartments that they had in Montreal that were super long and but big side living rooms and all that kind of thing, right? Like more family oriented design for like three or four in the apartment sort of idea, right? And but what was interesting is that when you'd come in the door, right, you'd look way down as far as you could see, and this door would open and there was this creepy toilet, right? Like, and it would just, it had an aura of, like as if it was alive, even looking at it, right? So I would always try and avoid it, even though you're drinking it and would want to go to the can, right? But every time, man, you go there, she'd say, watch this, and I was only there for 10 minutes the first time, and this damn thing started. I tried after to push the handle down myself. It's extremely hard. It was a really old fashioned, pure porcelain macho handle here stuff, like something that doesn't break, with super thick chain inside the toilet, like the old fashioned stuff, right? And this thing you had to really push down. but it had this terror of suction that was insane. Like it was like, ooh, it seemed like a human could be sucked down this thing, right? Well, this thing would start moving and it would sit there, and then the lid would fly up, and the thing would then start flushing and go like this, and it would make like these evil kind of echoing sounds out of it, right? So people, these women would freak and try and play like make a poor girl, two, three girls so terrified that the only way they would go to the bathroom is if one or two girls accompany them in this micro toilet, trying to shut the doors so guys would see them, to make sure that one of the girlfriends can actually, because they were that scared, right? So I seen like crazy this several times, and I mean the girl that owned it, right? She loved this and was not scared of the toilet monster at all, right? And she liked that this occurred and found it entertaining, right? So I know that something was causing that. I know I could use the Joe Nichols thing that was a pressure thing, but you can't, like, when people are trying to, and it's really hard on you. Like if you were a senior and you tried to push that handle down, you wouldn't be able to do it very easy. Not at all. Like, I mean, you had to really almost like as if you'd have to stand up and then push like hard down, right? It had a lot of pressure to it to move it, right? So, and how does the toilet seat fly up? And then the thing starts almost going like almost like whoa, you know, like I believe that thing was on it. I mean, I these are the few experiences in my life that and I was in that creepy um, Sir Wilfrid Laurier's place, and that place gave me the creeps, right? And that sort of thing like that. It was a bad aura in there, right? So I mean, I all I know is I don't really want to believe in these things. I know they must exist because even the Bible mentions it and all. Like, I mean, a ghost must exist or spirits, right? But I mean, it still trips me out. And the least I'm seeing of them, the better, right? In my mind, especially the Grim Reaper guy. No offense to him, but I mean, he was scary. But I must admit, he was a nice Grim Reaper, the only one I know of, right? He didn't, do us all in or whatever, right? So, but I really believe that that was some kind of poor, bad residue like thing of some sort. Maybe these things are true, that they can leave some kind of, I don't know, like weird impression of some sort. Or maybe the guy was trying to give like some kind of clue. Like, I don't know if they even knew who the murderer was. I just saw the letter that the lady lies to him, says it's a perfect, beautiful neighborhood, gets him in there. Then all of a sudden she shoves the next day under his door. Recently, you had a murder in your apartment. You may want to look secondly for, like, all this stuff, right? Like, so I mean, that you got to wonder, right? Like, I mean, was obviously. It's probably was from that event that this ghost like thing was there, right? So I don't really believe it was a shadow. I don't see how it could have been, right? So, but the Joe Nichols part in my mind wants to believe that, and I'm happy that even though I know it can't be, I would prefer to just keep it that way. Right, right. And, but the girl wouldn't even upset me more, because I mean, if I was her dad, I would be so angry that my daughter's running around dressed like that and that age at that time of night. I would trip out, right? But I mean, that. So I mean, that would upset me more in that sort of way, right? But the Grim Reaper guy creeped me out more, and the other one just would scare me, right? So that's really all I've ever personally sort of. There was, though, one time. There was one other sort of strange thing that I must admit that was pretty weird. That I was in this Manitic Mills place, and I was with this buddy of mine, and we wanted to go hunt suckers. It's a great place for suckers of different species, right? And some real nice sized ones and that. And we decided to keep fishing into the night, and they were starting to bite more and things. And this my buddy was looking in the windows out there, and it's all pitch black. All of a sudden, this light flashes, right? and you see this sort of this probably lady, a younger, like I don't know what age she would have been or whatever, but he saw her first, right? And then the light flashed off, and he said, "Did you see that?" And I saw the flickering of a light, but I didn't look up at the window, and I didn't notice it. And then a little while later, all of a sudden, he's at it again, and I look up, and son of a gun, you really saw this young girl like figure's face right in the window. And I wondered, hey, there wasn't a light there, so I thought maybe it's just some janitor, maybe they're stuck with her kid or something like that. And then what was weird though is you seen this shadow like sort of almost like another one, and he was way closer, and he claims that there was some kind of creepy bigger person or something that was also coming by. But then all of a sudden the light would shut off, and then that was it. But I don't understand that. I mean, if you were a janitor, why are you leaving all the lights off completely? Like, why go in the building all in the dark and only turn on the light on the top floor? How did you make it up there? Or like, even if you were using a flashlight, why would you do that when lights are convenient for you? You can shut them off when you're coming back down. You got to see where you're cleaning, right? You can't use a flashlight all night. So why would any human being do that? So that's my only question. And also, the girl didn't really look in the era of this kind of clothing of today. She looked to me like way a long time ago, like that kind of thing, right? And even her hairstyle and stuff, and that. But like I said, all I seen was more of a shadow like thing. But he saw this second figure like he way better, right? Sort of thing like that. But so you know, I ran across a few of these strange things, so I know there probably is like spirits out there, weird things, but some of these things are really creepy and strange, and but certainly for a world for a fishing mate, I mean, she'd be perfect. She could dive down underwater and tell me where all the monsters are, right? And that sort of thing like that. And she's pretty cute, so so sounds good to me. I mean, you know, and she's not going to be mad at me fishing or hanging out in the water, right? So I mean, that's a pretty decent wife, I would think. But I'll get inside though. Very interesting. Anyways, I just love these fascinating historical sort of bizarre ones mentions that probably really were based on some kind of real tribes out there that actually have bizarre powers that humans would think are not possible, but really are, and were developed strangely by isolation and things like that from some kind of strange thing, right? Or incantations taught to them by some visitor god or whatever, right? Those kinds of things. But anyways, what we'll continue on. I wanted to talk something that you never see anybody talk about this. I've seen a lot of shows and things over the years, different books and stuff that have suggested that possibly Apollo and Zeus and maybe some of the other of these Greek like guys are really all the same sort of characters, right? And that sort of thing like that. But I've never seen anybody suggest these things, and I can't believe I never noticed this before. But in a lot of depictions of this, right? If you look, what are we seeing here? You're seeing a mighty being with angels, including female angels, right? So this makes one wonder, is there actually really female angels? Let's hope so, right? We know there's cherubs that are like and apparently female, right? So there's some things that are really strange here, okay? Why is it that this Apollo guy, and then he goes visit these Hyperboreans, right? And that, and then the Zeus and that, all of them the same thing, but like, why is it that they got this with them? Okay, if a lot of people suggested that possibly Zeus was like a demon, like the devil or something like that, or some of the other ones, right? Or Apollo or these different things, right? However, if you think about it, there's a lot of interesting things about this. A lot of the depictions have these female angels, okay? And I don't believe that a devil like sort of entity here is going to probably even like angels, even the ones that followed him, right? And that Lucifer in this big battle, that doesn't these, if you look at the depictions of them, they seem to be like more of a friendly like nature, right? And this sort of thing like that. And you can see like down below there, there's like flying also male angels and this kind of thing, right? So why is would it not make sense that actually really this is the same guy as Yahweh, and all these other ones are all the same dude? He's just showing himself as what he believes that these people will best like. If they're more advanced, you can teach them more, right? And this sort of thing, right? So you deal with them at a different nature. But if they're very primitive, well, then you talk to them at a different level, right? So you appear to these different people. One guy's Apollo, one Zeus. Maybe you slightly change your figure to appeal more to them. And the main idea here is to give them the wisdom and the things that they need locally to survive and to advance their civilization, right? I don't believe, like, I mean, if this guy was, like, even if it wasn't the devil, let's say, like, some other evil entities, right? Like some evil gods out there. There's an interesting story where, uh, what was it? I think it's Zeus's father or something or whatever, right? Like, somehow swallowed them and then spit them back out. I suggest to you what people saw, because every time they mentioned that Zeus come on the sort of thing on Mount Olympus, right, and these kinds of places, right, these different ones, or you got the fiery bush there with Moses, all this kind of stuff. It's always the same. That the guy comes lightning and fire and everything, and then from the skies, and then he comes down, right? So they already know that this is Zeus that's coming, right? Or whatever, right? Like any kind of god. They already, because they know this is how he comes. He comes down like in a mighty sort of thing, right? Then, so when they said that he swallowed them up and then spit them back out, I suggest to you that they see the big spaceship in the sky, the beam comes down, the human interprets it like as if because Zeus is in this ship, it's all the same thing. Like the second that you see that, you're saying Zeus is here. So the two kind of are almost intertwined, right? So when the guy let out, let's say Zeus or whatever comes down, or different ones, right? At whatever scenario in different places, right? Because there's different sorts of these gods around, right? From India to Vishnu, different ones, right? But it's strange that each time the guy I don't believe like that so-called this advanced culture, right? Like especially like let's say Romans or Greeks, right? That they're going to spend gazillions of time and money and all this sort of stuff and build statues to some kind of alien god out there if it wasn't the same guy as this Yahweh guy, right? But you would wonder, you got this Tower of Babel, the place is all split up. People are over here, over there. They speak different languages. So this guy has to present himself differently in the language because he's the one who did it. So he knows all these languages, right? So he can speak to anybody from the most primitive chimp man to whatever advanced civilization. And I don't believe that they must have seen somebody coming there, like some kind of spaceship or something, right? And I don't believe that a devil entity would associate himself with the same entities that serve as God. And I don't believe the people making it, if this guy was like a demon guy, they would not have put these angels with him quite frequently. And I find this very interesting, right? Like so really the Apollo guy the same thing and these different ones, right? And you clearly even see in ancient times that no matter, like this one's a more newer drawing, but it's like a representative of the real statue, right? And that sort of thing like that. So the idea is that when this Tower of Babel thing was produced, right, and there's all these different groups, the guy presents himself at different things, and because they saw him with real, entities of angels, right, helping him, these cherubs or whatever you want to call them, right. I don't really believe that it can be a demon guy. It doesn't make any sense because angels are not, except for the fallen ones, are only associated with God, right? Like, so why would these guys put Apollo and Zeus and these different ones with these angel characters? Unless really, if they're all the same guy, right? He's just telling you the rules he wants in this area because it's always the same. As long as you're following these Ten Commandments and that you have these things about you that that he wants, right? Well, the guy's telling you this in all these different cultures. They all had similar thing. You shouldn't be murdering and all that, even though, of course, 10 zillion pretty warrior like people, right? Like, I mean, they almost took over the world, the Romans, and that sort of thing like that. Even the Greeks had some pretty big rules and different things, right? So, but the thing is that these people were more dealt with and advanced quicker than some other cultures for whatever reason, right? But I don't believe that these guys would always. Why is it that the guy is the same kind of thing? He just looks slightly different. He's always wants a temple. He comes fiery down from the sky. And what I'm saying is there's this legend where he spit them out and then he swallowed them back up again. I saying that that was the spaceship. You shot them down, they did their business, whatever, now they sucked up. But the regular citizens, like I said, interpreted in a different sort of way, right? So they've seen him swallowing them, right? Like, because they don't really know what a spaceship is. None of them been inside of it, right? Except the few lucky like Ezekiel or ones like that, right? But I mean in general, or at least mentioned anyways, right? So it's very interesting. Nobody's ever correlated this, but a lot of people try and say it's a demon guy. I kind of doubt this. And I think that that's why he was shooting the thunderbolts and all this kind of stuff. Just like he got mad at Moses, he got pissed off at the Israelites. He's a god, and before he had Jesus, and then mellowed out a little bit, right? This guy had real fire stuff going here, right? And you can't, if you split the cultures on purpose, you cannot, you know what I mean, all go to them each one and say the same thing, right? Like, so as far as you know, in ancient before that their memory or whatever, Yahweh, Apollo, Zeus, you know what I mean, these different ones, right, are really all the same individual, just portraying themselves to the people that in this area that will understand either more higher culture, you teach more, or that they're still more at a primitive level, right? And that, but always the same thing. The guy comes from the skies. You got the lightning and thunder or fire of some sort. The mountains rumble. It's always on a mountain. And then, because of course you want to stay above all the peons, right? That any idiots that might try and get into your ship or whatever, right? Like, I could see all this. It would make common sense, right? Plus, it's a bigger spectacle, right? Everybody looks more, macho when you're up on the top of a mountain telling people to listen here, immortals. When you shoot down a lightning bolt, it would be yes, sir, immediately, like for anybody with a brain, right? Like, sort of thing. Like, so I could see them using this as theatrics, right? Like in that sort of way, right? Like, it's to keep them you know what I mean? Like keeping the experiment going the proper way and realizing that yes, there's a mighty one and we need to behave and do as he's asking, right? Like that sort of thing, right? So this guy would visit these different ones, right? But most people associated this thinking that they're just imaginary gods, right? Like you'll have the same people in a Christian thing that would say that these gods were imaginary. There's only one God, the mighty Yahweh, right, and that sort of thing. But what I'm saying is because of these different cultural split ups and all this sort of thing, there's no way that the guy can say to, like, he can't speak in Jewish and say I'm mighty Yahweh, right? When the guy speaks a different language, Greek or Latin or whatever it is, right? So the guy has to portray himself, and because the cultures were separated and they moved off in their own sort of fashion, right? Well, then they developed their own cultural like sorts of things, right? So now this guy comes in, maybe, you know what I mean? Like in that culture, they've already all the men wear, I don't know, some macho belt with a big sword on it, right? Well, then this guy is going to like more appear for you to appeal to this sorts of things, like what, so that the people will listen to you more and there's less grief in that. But I just find it very bizarre that in a lot of these depictions of him, right, they got these angels and a lot of times they're females. So I'm suggesting to you that there's a way more to this than what we could ever possibly imagine, and that maybe possibly the Yahweh guy, the Zeus guy, the Apollo guy, all these different characters out there, as far as I know, Vishnu and different ones, right, were the same guy talking locally to the people, either calm down, where all he says is, I want you to, I don't know, sacrifice a sheep and, you know what I mean, stand and pray for a couple hours, whatever, right? Like, in the different things, what he wants you to do. And because they were containable numbers, he could visit. They got a temple. He's pleased. They're all saying, "Thank you, Lord, mighty whatever Yahweh, Apollo, whatever." Right, like whichever one, like he's portraying himself. It's all the same thing. And even in the Bible, it mentions that there's different tribes, right, and that they were instructed differently how to do things. You see how my stuff matches up with this stuff. I'm not just, it's not out of the head stuff here. There's reasons that I believe these things because, I mean, there's also chapters in the Bible stating these things. Like I said in other shows there, how do you know that some people really don't have weird incantation powers that they've gotten from some ancient books or something, or some character out there taught them this sort of stuff, right? Because the guy admits that these things exist, right? There was a witch of Endor and all kinds of crazy stuff. So whatever people think is imagination, since the Bible keeps every dime, like I said, these, I mean, who would ever believe that Sodom and Gomorrah, that a statue-like thing that looks like Lot's wife, right, is exactly in the place that pretty well that might have occurred. And there's 10 zillion of these balls. They even find them in the ocean area, but not anywhere else. Just exactly for these two cities. Nothing, all the rest, and a little bit around it, but not attacking any other sort of place, right, that was nearby, right? And why is it that they're the only ones on the planet that you can still pull out of the water there? You light them and they burn in this insane intense heat, right? So can you imagine all that sulfur burning gas and everything? These people would have just, you know what I mean, like wild stuff, right? But it's reality, right? Like the same with the feeding the Israelites and this power beam of water gave them all that kind of stuff, right? They found this place that they actually exist. All these stories, there's seemingly 100% a factual sort of thing. Even where John the Baptist there, they found his symbols inside the cave and where he would have washed the feet, right? And that sort of thing like that. I mean, all these places, and even the locals, ancients telling you that that was where it was anyways, but these people would just ignore it, right? But So each place they have these great tales that are very similar, right? And all I'm saying is that when God got mad that these idiots started trying to climb to the universe to throw him off his throne, right? And a certain thing like this, he zapped them a bunch of languages. They all split out, right? And yeah, this gang goes this way, this one, that. And the only way that you can continue dealing with them is by now speaking to them in this new language, right? Well, then you might have to portray yourself slightly different in each event, right? One time you come down macho, and another time you're more, I don't know, relaxed or whatever, or like all that kind of stuff. So that would appeal more to the group now that you've created that have ran off this way, right? So and you provide them rules and things. It said that these tribes of Israel were given different rules, the same thing, right? So I suggest this would come across support, right? It makes perfect sense that, so I just can't see that these were demons that they were worshiping because angels were created by God. You have to look at it in this context. Nobody else created, there's no other mention in any sort of thing of some demon monsters creating angels to help them or anybody else, right? Just the mighty Yahweh God guy himself, right? So this guy created them, however that occurred, right? Like, and that. So as a helpers, right? So there's strange things though, like there's these things that they have to listen to his commandment, yet Lucifer then gets peeved off, right? And that some of this so I find that strange because the Bible never lies. So what does this mean then? Was Lucifer really not an actual normal angel like thing, like somewhere that there's an interpretation thing where he's like a hierarchy sort of, like a different sort of thing here, like these jinns and all these weird ones that they have, right? That could be like based on something, right? So maybe those guys were different than typical angels, right? That this I don't know, but there's strange like anomalies sort of things to it, right? But whatever the case, right? Uh, they seem to have, at least a certain kinds of them have their own free will like humans do, right? So I find this interesting, right? Like there's mysterious stuff that we're not going to solve until this guy comes, right? And even at that, who knows if he'll ever explain it to you, right? But anyways, like I mean, because even though I'd be terrified of him in one way, I mean, I'd like to, if he would be willing to speak back to you, just ask him questions that can amaze me, right? Like I mean, was it really him that was coming down these different places? Like, what's the agenda? Were we here for some kind of great experiment, or what's going on? Like to understand it all, right? Like because I love all this, right? I find it fascinating. But anyways, I'm telling you, some guy in the sky like this exists, and these people weren't imagination. We were pitched this foolishly. They're based on somebody. Well, I mean, millions of people have seen UFOs in the sky, and some of these things cannot be from humans. I mean, think of like the amount of idiocy crashes that we see yearly, and car crashes and all these things, right? Drugs and crazy stuff, right? Right? Okay. Humans are not always the swiftest, even swift ones, right? Right? So if they really were making this stuff, especially all these massive ages that we've been seeing them, right? I believe that these things would be crashing constantly, right? But if you're a superior race that created us, but we imagine what a spirit being is I don't know, we give it more wackiness to it than probably what there is. It's just simply this guy has been around for, it says 1,000 years to the Lord is like one day here, right? In their time zone, right? So the this guy has like seemingly a never ending sort of life source, right? And that sort of thing like that. And so they're much more advanced than us, right? And this kinds of things, right? Like maybe his planet where he originally came from or whatever, right? Like all these things, there's has to be probably Mrs. God. There's a lot of stuff that isn't mentioned, right? That they might have. I mean, you can only can put so many books. You can only put so many things. He's the god. He's the boss. So whether he has a wife or not, he's still in charge. Okay, so that's why these things are not included much. I mean, obviously, the sons of God, how could they be the sons of God unless he was with somebody, right? You see what I mean, right? Others try and falsely state that they were angels, and maybe there's something to this, right? Like some high archangels, even higher, right? Like the sons of God, but still, there seems to be like some kind of things here that we're not seeing, that were never mentioned, right? That there could be like Mrs. God and all this stuff, right? And that kind of thing. And these sons of God truly could have been the regular way, like with one of his kind, what a female would be like, right? Because they existed because the cherubs, there was a female like thing, right? And that. So there seems to be like a lot of still mysterious stuff, but at the end of the day, I don't believe that a satanic groups would associate themselves with angels that seemingly are more like on a friendly notion here, right? And that sort of thing like that. I mean, I could see the case if they all were like evil, black, and whatever, right? Like then they would be like a fallen angel of some sort or whatever, right? But this doesn't seem to be the case, right? In these things, so I'm just saying nobody proposes this, but I find it odd that all these mighty sort of Greek gods, right? That maybe we think is blasphemy, that the Greeks and the Romans and everybody was praying to, but really maybe it's all the same guy. He told you this group how to do it his way, the way he wants you to do it there. Another place it's different, right? And he tells you this, he mentions this in the Bible. So the holier than thou, when you're in the church and preaching all this stuff, right? You don't know that these people in a different area, right, were taught in a very different way, and they believe fully just as much as you that they're doing it the correct way. You see what I mean, right? So he seemed to have a purpose for this reason, right? So I just find this odd. The Apollo guy flies over these Hyperboreans, which were some people in the farthest sort of thing, right? Like in the coldest of the north and all the like all this wacky stuff, right? So and they all seem similar. They come down from the sky in a mighty ship of some sort, a chariot like thing, and the mountains rumble, and they always have some kind of mighty weapon that, yeah, you know what I mean, can shoot down lightning bolts at you or whatever, right? This kind of stuff. So it always seems similar, right? And I just don't believe that people are this. To follow such a thing so deeply and have these stories inbred right into you to death that you fully believe all the sort of thing, like if you were from those times, right? Like never do you see, like you see ancient guys like Socrates, all these people, right? You don't see them saying that these guys didn't exist. These were super intelligent people, right? So there's something strange there, right? Like they must have had some reason to say this, that they must have been seeing actual real sort of something out there, right? So keep that in mind. I mean, there's more to this than we could ever possibly imagine, and it's very possible that the Zeus, like all these kinds of guys, right, were really the same dude presenting himself in a different way, right? And that sort of thing like that, because the angels are a huge clue to me that God is the only one, the Yahweh guy, that is associated with making angels and them following him, right? So when you're putting them on other statues of so-called other gods, there's something funny about that because I don't put, I think that even the Yahweh guy wouldn't like this, right? Like probably, right? And that, and the evil monster guy that's pretending to be God or whatever, some alien guy, right? Well, that seems strange that he would do that because that would be his, he's evil, he's good, that's his enemy. So now, why does he have angels guarding him, right? You see what I mean? Like, there's something wrong with that, right? So, the only way that I could see this being feasible is that actually, really, it's all the same guy, like they say, except that most people associate this with a different kind of god or the guy like Apollo and Zeus were the same, but they're not suggesting he's also Yahweh. And I kind of sort of think more this way that maybe it's all the same guy, right? Like because the angels are a huge clue to me because of this, right? So anyway, well, we got some more there that we'll do next show with that sort of thing like that. I've been recovering and still, and a lot of different things happened to me. It's just absolutely terrible, right? So rough stuff. So, but anyways, we'll. Uh, it's just interesting. You got to admit, right? In these rings and all these weird things, there's actual like physical things out there that we can look upon that mystify the mind, right? Like I mean, that you think it's all imagination, but makes one wonder, like why is there all these things and even scepters that are actual physical that seemingly could maybe shoot out electrical beams and all these weird stuff, right? There's a lot of strange things out there, right? So, but anyways, I wouldn't be surprised if Zeus, Atlas, not Atlas, I mean Zeus and Apollo and these different ones, right? And maybe like the Hades guy, maybe that's like a Lucifer like guy, right? Or something like that, right? The king of the underworld, right? He was a god too, but they would treat him like a god. I mean, he's some kind of archangel like sort of guy, right? Like sort of thing. But I mean, do you see what I mean? Like, but there was guys that would present themselves like a lot of different evil guys that are godlike, right? So maybe the head guy Yahweh does it with these mighty ones, right? Like the Apollo, Zeus, or whatever, that way. But also, there's been like an evil guys that were part of this battle, right? That were still around, maybe chained up, that maybe can reach their powers to humans mentally and all kinds of weird stuff, right? That they can still control things even if they're chained up, right? And they might, I mean, some of this Hades stuff and all these different things might have been based on some kind of bad like gods, right? Yeah, these, as far as even Nephilim like things or whatever, right? Like there's a lot of different things out there. But anyways, I just these statues of Zeus and Apollo and the different ones and the correlation with angels, I find that very hard to believe that it was a satanic that was putting up angels like this. There's something very strange about that, right? So, but anyways, so we'll next show's there. We'll continue on there, and I got more mystery cats and all that sort of thing like that. I just this one I wasn't able to finish this well. So thanks, and we'll see you next show. So a few more things I wanted to mention. I've forgotten in the Bible there's a mention of Apollo. Okay, and I find that strange because again, a lot of reverence and people will say, "Well, no, there's only one God. He's the God of that," and that's all true in the general sense that He's the head God. But even in the Bible, they mention these kinds of things, right? You got Apollo. So I don't. The confusion is that when the person was writing this, is Apollo a different god, or that the guy doesn't realize that Yahweh, Apollo, Zeus, all these guys are really the same? They're just putting it out to that particular people, right? Like the way they portray themselves, right? So there's a lot of strange sort of things out there that is mystifying. But the thing is, like I said, because of the angel correlation in that, I just really have a hard time believing that since they were God's creations, right, that you're going to be putting them with entities that are some demon monsters or different things with these angels. That there's something wrong with that, right? So it would make more sense to me that Zeus, Apollo, I don't know if they're like even possibly the sons of God, right? One of them of some sort, right? Like this is really hard to know because it's confusing in the sense that if Yahweh, Apollo, and Zeus and these different ones are the same exact guy, right? Well, then I don't. It's kind of odd that they mention him like in the Bible, but under that name Apollo, right? So I don't know again, like, does is the Yahweh guy presenting himself as Apollo in this sort of thing? And they mention the Bible, but nevertheless, Apollo existed. So therefore, likely Zeus did too, or does, like these guys, right? And maybe they're all the same. This I don't, maybe Zeus and Apollo are the same guy, but they're like a son of God, or whatever, right? Like there's something to this more than what we understand, right? And that, but there's for sure something to this, right? Like and that sort of thing like that. So we'll continue on with some more real lake monster films next, and some different ones on our next show. And that I again after I recovered, I ended up back at the hospital with a new sort of little issue. Had to rework myself all the way back. I could barely walk and everything like that. So I'm back up and running again. So, anyways. So we'll continue on a few more magic items, some more mystery cats, and that. I got some very believable witnesses, a Sasquatch, and that, and a bunch of other sort of updates and things like that. So, anyways, have a good day and stay tuned.